Yes, today my intro for the Nerds of Comedy is going to be a bit cheesier than my normal intros. That's because today we have a very special episode of the Nerds of Comedy. In fact, it's not even the Nerds of Comedy. Today we are the Mystery Nerds. Brad McMurran and myself, we are huge mystery fans. This is something we've wanted to do for a long, long time. Today, instead of your typical comedy movie or TV show, we are going to be talking about an episode of Columbo, the season 4 episode By Dawn's Early Light. We are huge mystery fans. We are huge Columbo fans. Peter Falk's portrayal of Columbo is amazing. It's so nuanced. There are so many comedy beats that he puts into this character, as well as being just a really, really good detective show / murder mystery. So please sit back and enjoy this episode of the Nerds of Comedy, aka the Mystery Nerds. Welcome to the Nerds of Comedy. This is going to be a different episode.
Absolutely. I'm so pumped.
It's not, today we are not the Nerds of Comedy. We are the Mystery Nerds.
Yes.
I think that's the name we're going to go with.
Mystery Nerds. I'll buy that.
Well, I'll sleep on it, but I'm thinking Mystery Nerds.
All right, working title.
So Brad and I, we are huge mystery fans. We are fans of mystery stories, movies, TV shows,
novels, characters, fictional characters obsessed with.
You actually do essentially it's a one-man show. I mean, we've all been in it from time to time, but where it's an improvised murder mystery, The Unusual Suspects, the improvised murder mystery, where you play a different detective every time.
Every time, yeah. I play.
It used to be you would have a bunch of different suspects on stage with you. Hillary's done it. Scott has done it. Ed, myself. Pretty much everybody's been a guest
Matt
on
Cole, yeah.
The Nerds of Comedy has been in The Unusual Suspects. But lately you've been doing it to almost a one-man show where you're getting more of the audience as your suspects.
Yeah, I think this is probably, I think you'd probably agree, of the homegrown push shows, this is probably the most successful one as far as nationally. We've gotten to go around doing it, but it really started, and I think the reason, well, you know this more than anyone, it started just because I love murder mysteries.
Right, exactly. And so today we are going to talk about one particular detective and just one episode, because we've been talking about this for a while. So we're finally making it happen. The Mystery Nerds, it's going to come to you on a semi-regular basis here at the Nerds of Comedy. So today we are talking about Columbo.
Hell yeah, we are.
Specifically, the episode By Dawn's Early Light.
Yes.
So, Brad, real quick, give a very brief plot synopsis of this episode.
All right, it takes place in a California a military school.
Yep, L.A., which is where pretty much all his stuff, almost all his stuff is set. Yep.
And we'll get into the actors and all that later, but a colonel, I think he's actually a colonel who runs the boys' military school, sets up a murder to have a cannon backfire on a guy that's going to sell the school.
Yeah, he's going to shut the school down and
make it into like retail stores or something.
Or no, a co-ed college. So it's, right now it's a boys' military school, and he's going to shut it down and turn it into a co-ed junior college.
So you have the whole setting is at a military school. Columbo's investigations are with students pretty much throughout the whole thing, and it's a battle of wits between this very, very uptight colonel and the most lovely man alive, Mr. Columbo.
Yeah, Peter Falk.
Lieutenant Columbo.
Lieutenant Columbo. So you and I we are huge Columbo fans.
And Peter Falk. Yeah.
And Peter Falk,
You're seeing me dork out right now. Yeah.
Because this is our first episode, so people who don't know Columbo, when we do future episodes, we will kind of keep this out. But since this is the first one, explain Columbo.
Okay, so even the show he was talking about before, and I'm such a nerd about that. If you've seen Knives Out, for instance, that's called a whodunit. If you look at Agatha Christie's novels, they're normally a whodunit, meaning that it's a classification, meaning that at the end of the show, the reveal will happen who the killer was, and that you get as an audience member to try to catch up or try to guess the killer.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of, again, like Knives Out is kind of.
It is one. It's a whodunit. Yeah, because at the end you find out who it was. Yeah.
But Agatha Christie, like the Miss Marples, the Poirot.
Sherlock Holmes.
I would say Sherlock Holmes. The biggest complaint, at least about the novels, is that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle never gave the reader enough information to solve the crime on their own. There was you never had a chance to solve it before Sherlock, whereas other mystery authors, you were getting the clues as the detective was. And
my girl, Jessica Fletcher, right? I mean,
yes,
Murder
exactly.
She Wrote.
She's
going to figure it out at the end.
And you have a chance of finding out who.
Jessica Fletcher. Yeah.
You have a chance of finding out who the killer is before the detective if you're smart enough.
Exactly. And this was what makes this particular show so different. And that this has got a category that's really called a How Catch 'em. And that why you call it a How Catch 'em is the first act of this 3-act murder mystery episode, if you will. We get to see as the audience the killing take place.
Yeah,
and it's always an immaculate kind of murder, like nothing could get caught with. And that the second and third act is Lieutenant Columbo coming into in his own way and figuring out this murder. Yeah.
Yes. So in this particular episode, the Colonel is the murderer, and he's played by Patrick McGoohan.
Such a fan.
An amazing actor. One of the reasons why we picked this episode, Patrick McGoohan actually starred in 4 Columbo
I didn't know.
episodes.
I didn't know he was in another one, but yeah.
He and Robert Culp are tied for the most amount of episodes where they would play the killer.
And you and I really like both of these actors.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. Both of them. Patrick McGoohan, he was in the show Danger Man, which was known as Secret Agent Man. The song Secret Agent Man was
Secret Agent.
That was the theme song to his show.
Do you know I used to think it said Secret Asian Man?
No, I did not, but there you go.
All right.
That would be a completely different show.
I really did as a little kid. I thought that's what they were saying.
He was in a show called The Prisoner. He was in your favorite movie,
Braveheart. He is the king.
Trouble with Scotland is that it's full of Scots.
You know what else he was in? And I hate saying it. Please help me out. He was in that terrible movie with Billy Zane, where he's a superhero. Help me out.
Oh, the Phantom?
The Phantom. He is the Phantom's father, the first
Phantom. That's right.
Yeah,
that is right.
He is.
And actually, that I've gone back and we watched. That is not a terrible movie.
It was for me. You know what it is? I just hate Billy Zane, but yeah.
Oh, maybe. Okay, that's true. I'm not a big fan, but I had never seen it until recently.
Okay.
But because I always had heard that it was a bad movie, but it holds up.
Yeah. Enough of that. Let's get back to
let's get back to Columbo. So this episode, it's a slower episode.
It is.
The pacing is a little bit slow, but the tension is there. The first
sweat and everything.
8 minutes is you just see him, Patrick McGoohan's character, the Colonel, taking apart this shell and filling it with C4 and wiping it down for prints and then putting it back
meticulously.
Very meticulous. And you're right, he's sweating the entire time. And there's you pointed out there's no music whatsoever. It's a very, very long scene, but and again, very atypical for a Columbo episode. There's a lot more tension in this than normal. And actually throughout the entire episode, there is like this weird kind of tension between McGoohan and Columbo. So like once the explosion happens and it's the grandson of the founder of the school.
That's right.
Who actually had gone to the military school as a kid and had the colonel as one of his teachers, and they always hated each other. Has decided that as the sole heir is going to shut down the school, so the colonel bumps him off. But from their first meeting, Columbo is just walking around the parade grounds looking for clues, and he's very disheveled in his overcoat and his cigar.
Coming in on that French car. He has so many things that are so staples of him.
Yeah, exactly. That McGoohan thinks he's just either like some homeless dude or just some civilian who is interfering with the police investigation.
Officer, you may wish to detain this man. He refuses to leave the area.
This man is Lieutenant Columbo, sir. He's in charge of the investigation.
Is he?
Yes, sir.
kind of very incredulous when he finds out that Columbo is the lead detective on the case.
And we're all dork out too, and like you got to understand, I just love what they do with Columbo because, like he said, Columbo is a slob. He's a guy that everybody underestimates. He's the perfect underdog, right? Where I think you said it the other day when we were talking about it, is he kind of breaks down people's guards, and you don't.
He's so unassuming.
Yeah.
He's very
polite.
Very polite, but very forgetful.
Can't remember any pocket. Ever.
Yeah.
There's never a time where he can find anything in his pocket.
Exactly. So it definitely, especially in a lot of these episodes, the killer is feels very superior.
Well, and I'm glad you said that. So I did a little bit of research on this because we were talking about it. Is that, about 95% of them too are aristocrats.
Okay.
And it kind of makes sense. This is one of those ones that's not. It's a colonel, but I would still say it's somebody of power. But where I love the writing of it
normally
is,
there is a very class warfare in between Columbo and whoever he's investigating.
and he messes up etiquette all the time, and he's great. But in this one, where I think it's a great, where we didn't say that Patrick McGoohan did win. He's the only one to win, I believe, an Emmy or whatever.
Emmy for guest actor.
Yeah, for this role.
Peter Falk won 3 Emmys for his portrayal of Columbo over the years, but McGoohan's the only one to come in. McGoohan actually directed a bunch of episodes.
I saw that.
Well.
Yeah, I saw that. But in this, it said that. I mean, not in this. This is just my opinion. Actually, but it's true. And so they're very opposite. You have this together man that they show. You remember when the coffee comes in and he drinks the coffee, and like if he's got almost a male servant that's from the military school that's coming in, and he's very meticulous, and he has that conversation where there's some alcohol found in a dorm or something.
So when McGoohan is planting, he's
a rag.
Yeah, he's replaced the shell back into the armory, but has taken a rag and stuffed it into the barrel of the cannon.
Old Thunder was the name of the cannon that they fire at the end of the day and for parades.
Yeah. So when the cannon goes off,
in front of the whole parade, the dude died. Yeah.
So when the cannon goes off,
they don't show you that, but
the rag is gonna cause enough of this disturbance to make the thing backfire, which is now with C4, so the whole thing is going to explode. But while he's planting that, he sees in one of the dorms some cadets are fermenting some apple cider. Mm-hmm. And it turns out to be his downfall. He's such a stickler for rules that while he is talking with Columbo, he calls over one of his junior officers and reads in the riot act, like, they're making alcohol in this dorm and you're going to turn it from top to bottom and find it. When the guy, his servant, comes in with his coffee, he dresses down because his shoes aren't polished to his liking. And that's one of those things where Columbo starts, he's such a stickler for details. But when he starts asking about when he first noticed the cider, the details are very hazy. It was like, it must have been sometime last week.
And he couldn't say that it was that early in the morning because he had the alibi. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So genius.
So this is a question I asked you. So during the course of the episode, McGoohan's character, when he early on before the murder happens, because McGoohan is the one who is supposed to be firing the cannon for Founders Day, but he's a colonel and a military man and a tactician, and uses reverse psychology on the founder's grandson, saying, "You know what? I'm going to fire the cannon." The grandson says, "No, you will not. I'm shutting this place down. You're out of here. You're not going to be one firing the cannon." And then he's like, "All right, well then I'll get one of my junior officers to fire the cannon." And the grandson's like, "No, I'm assuming then you would like to fire the cannon." And the guy's like, "You know what? Yeah, I do want to fire."
That was awesome.
So he reverse psychologied him into
his trap.
Yeah, but he had left his office door ajar so his secretary could hear that entire conversation to make it look like McGoohan was the intended target, but because of this snot-nosed grandkid took his spot.
Yeah. And again, what's always so great is that all this, and sorry we're getting so dorky in this one episode, but I love it, is, again, the whole first act is always, somebody's always got gloves on to where it is the perfect crime with one mistake.
Yes.
And Columbo, that crazy, wonderful man. He'll find he waits till it's exposed. And you were about to ask me, I think, the question.
Yeah. So the question. So we had talked about this earlier when I brought up the question, but I didn't want your answer then. I wanted it now. When did you think Columbo realized the Colonel was the killer?
And this is if you start watching these episodes, and I hope you do because they're really wonderful. This is a question you'll start asking throughout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when was it that he first found out? When he goes into the boy's room to interview the boy, and he says that McGoohan had pinned it on this bad cadet.
Yeah.
And that the cadet had poor marks, but when he goes into this man's bunk, the young man's bunk beds, and says, he's sitting on the top bunk, and he says to him, "Do you know what this is?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's a gun rag."
Mm-hmm.
And that he wouldn't have thought that a guilty person would throw that away too soon, right?
Right.
Springer was on the gun cleaning detail, correct?
Yes.
Springer was the last one to clean the gun. And Springer has a history of carelessness. Now, in view of these facts, Lieutenant, can you explain to me why you believe him?
Because he identified the rag so fast.
But more importantly, this is the moment where I think he had him, is he found out in that interview that to be able to wipe down the old Thunder, the cannon, was an honor.
Yeah.
Why would he have put a guy that has bad marks in that honor?
Mm-hmm.
And this, like you said, he's a man that's by the book.
Right.
And if you notice, I've gotten so dorky with it, you know, Peter Falk with that great thing because he had like a glass eye, I believe. He turns and like has that moment, like something just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
You know, and you saw that right there. There's my answer. What did you think?
I thought maybe there. So that was the first hit because the Colonel had he'd shown the rag to the Colonel earlier as well.
That's right.
And the Colonel should have known it was
that's
gun
exactly
rag.
right. Good for you.
And that's something I just thought I had thought about that. But then the other thing that where the secretary had mentioned that the Colonel had forgotten to shut his door during that whole conversation.
The Colonel brought me out something to file and left the door ajar. But I can assure you that Mr. Haynes did all the provoking.
Can you remember anything specific that was said?
Yes. Yes, one thing I'll never forget. The Colonel suggested to Mr. Haynes that Captain Loomis preside at the ceremonies. Now, if Mr. Haynes had listened, he'd be alive today. So, in a sense, it was William Haynes's temper that killed him.
Thank you very much.
That's not something the Colonel would ever forget.
No, and I love that we're putting it this way. The character is written just, again, like the kind of guy you'd set your watch by.
Yeah,
That's exactly, you know what I mean? Where he's going to be there. And again, what's so funny about it, because there is comedy in this, y'all. Like watching Columbo, who if you made me to rank my top 10 detectives, he's top 3, maybe 2 for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean
like that's how big he is for me.
He's so good. And then obviously the final nail in the coffin is when throughout the episode, McGoohan is just, it's like his white whale, this cider. So when this all comes up and Columbo says, like, when did you notice the cider? And again, he can't say, well, I noticed it Saturday morning.
That's strange that you didn't start your investigation the moment you saw it. That seems to be the way you do things. Right away, no delays.
Gentlemen, you're slow. You're very slow.
Was it during the day or night, sir?
What?
I said, can you remember if it was during the day or the night?
Day, of course. All right, Captain, who was it?
Morgan, sir.
Morgan, step forward.
All cadets remain where you are.
Lieutenant, what the hell's going on here?
That was a lie, Colonel. It couldn't have been during the day.
It must have been night. Logic, Lieutenant. Logic.
Wednesday night, Thursday night?
During the week.
No, sir, it was Saturday night. the night before the explosion that Mr. Haynes was killed.
McGoohan's character is so by the book that he couldn't let that one little thing go.
That's such a great point. And layers, and like, again, he remember we talked about this a little bit off air, but there's such a Columbo moment. He is a damned genius.
Oh yeah,
Columbo is a genius, but you would never guess that. I mean, if you see this guy, he's so just disheveled. But
there's
love
even
that
the part
moment
where the cadet who's been pinned on, flees campus and is going to go with his girlfriend to leave the state. And Columbo follows him to her school or whatever. And it made it seem like she was in high school, maybe, or was it
a little
college?
weird there.
She was on
We're in the 70s, yeah.
it was on a. She definitely had to get on a school bus. So she's asked, like, "Hey, do you know Marlene or whatever?" And the student he's talking to is this other girl, and she's like, "I'm not allowed to talk to strangers." And he's like, "It's all right, ma'am. I'm a police officer."
Miss, can you tell me what she looks like?
So are you sure you're a police officer?
Absolutely.
Sure doesn't look like a police car.
If you could just give me a rough idea. Is she tall? Is she short? Is she blonde? Brunette?
Well, she's kind of average, I guess. Blonde, she's wearing a red sweater.
Thank you.
Hey, are you sure that badge is real?
Even when he finally finds his badge and flashes it, this kid or girl, I mean, she's probably in her, maybe she's college, so 19, 20, still does not believe that he's a cop, even after he's flashed the badge.
Well, and I think that's the contrast is so great in this, is where McGoohan, when he's going to go interview the boy that I just talked about, the young cadet, to find out about this murder, he's like, I want you to go to the south side of the campus. When you walk out, I want you to take, four flanks this way, make a right, go down 4 buildings, take the left. And you always like watching Columbo. And again, he's a genius. He can get every fact straight. But when he's going like this, it's like he checks out or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he's like, and he goes, okay. And the next thing you see.
Excuse me, fellas, can you tell me where the mess hall is? The mess hall? Can you tell me, is the mess hall this way? I'm sorry. I just want to know, can you tell me, is the mess hall in this direction?
Exactly. And this becomes the game the whole time, is where he can't. And again, there's just so many things with Columbo I could go crazy about, like right now, that we haven't even brought up. For instance, is that he badgers people.
He really does. He has no social etiquette, really. He badgers people. He's always got that cigar that he's smoking. Like when he's going through like some of the records, after he's done and he's leaving, he's like, "Oh, I apologize. Was my cigar bothering you?" So he's asking as he's leaving the room, after he's been in there for like 20 minutes or how long ever it was, going through all these records. Even when he goes in the mess hall, he's got the cigar.
I love it.
When all these people are eating. Nowadays, he would be crucified. Even coming anywhere close to somebody with a cigar, but he's just waving it around the entire time.
It's almost like another tactic of his, is to get under your skin a little bit, and like he's always apologetic, and of course he's famous for one more thing.
Just one more thing.
And that one thing is such an important question on it. It's he just has this knack to get in there, and again,
or there's even a scene where sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but he decides he's going to stay at the barracks to, and sleep there while he's solving the crime. But at 3:00 in the morning, he gets this hunch. So he runs to a payphone and calls one of the other detectives police officers, because supposedly when the cannon exploded, it was people from like 8 miles away had heard the explosion, were calling in, complaining and asking about it. And Columbo's big thing is like, well, why? Supposedly the cannon is fired every single day. Why'd they notice this one? Yeah, why did they notice this one? But he has to know that answer at 3:00 in the morning. So they show he wakes this poor police officer up. And it was also weird that this is the 70s, which, by this point in time, it's fine. But his wife was in a separate bed.
Yeah,
if it was
weird.
the 50s, or even like the early 60s, like Dick
weird.
Van Dyke, they were in separate beds. I Love Lucy, but you wouldn't think 1970. I think it was 1973, 74.
I think it was 75.
Oh, was it 75?
Yeah, it was 75.
Okay.
Yeah. I just saw. I looked.
It
at
was
today.
it was season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, season 4 because the series started in 71, I believe.
Yeah, I think
70,
like
71. Yeah.
But yeah, what I was going to say is like we were talking about is so I've been fortunate enough to be able to play this Unusual Suspects thing where I get to play a different character. Sometimes I'll make up a character, and other times I'll take, like a diagnosis murder, like a Dick Van Dyke, and get to play him. But I parried it sort of. One thing I guess where I'm going is I dork out about detectives, and this one thing that I've always loved about Lieutenant Columbo, he doesn't carry a gun.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like he beats you with this every time. It's his biggest weapon is his brain, and he just does not. He understands guns.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple episodes where they've handed him a gun.
Exactly, but he does not carry one. It's not in. He would lose it anyway.
He probably would. Yeah, he's got his notebook and his cigar, and that's about it.
And you had just told me a story, and sorry, we're now just fanning up on Columbo for a second. Is you had just told me a story that I'd love to be able to hear again, just because I want to hear right about about his name. We were talking about his name, and that one of the episodes
this episode, McGoohan actually asks him like, Lieutenant, what's
this one?
Yeah, what's your first name?
Do you have a first name? I do. My wife is about the only one that uses it.
So hilarious because he's just Lieutenant Columbo.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have to talk about it is that his wife too is such an integral part of every show.
Yes.
But you never see his wife. He just talks about her, and he's such a good husband to her.
Oh yeah, he loves her.
He does.
He loves
she drives
her.
him crazy sometimes.
Yeah,
but
he's always like making food for her and stuff like that, and talking about. Which is an episode we'll talk about. Another one, the one that we just
love
watched.
that one with the guy from Octopussy.
Yeah, the chef. Yeah,
you had asked a question, and I guess this is one of the things is that Columbo was not ever named in any of the series. However, episode 3 of the first season, a dork. Probably like me, I'm actually glad to know it, saw when he flashed his badge that you could pause it and sort of look in. Any guesses?
It's probably something very kind of boring, like
it is.
Like John.
Ooh, close. Any others? Where's he from? Let's see if you can get. What's his descent?
He's Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an Italian name or is it?
Yeah, it's be short for an Italian name.
Is it Vincent or
Close,
Vinny?
No. Frank.
You know what? Yeah, there you go. It's your perfect Frank Columbo.
Frank Columbo is like, I guess, short for Frankie or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still funny as hell. I saw that today. But yeah, there's also a rapport that Columbo does better than any other detective. He almost becomes friends with the killers. He ends up finding out the killer, and of course, there is respect, I would say, given by the killer at the end most of the time. But
most of the time,
what do you think about in this one? I think there was.
I think there was a little.
He couldn't have believed he was got by this guy.
Yeah. Again, I still think incredulous. I think, McGoohan's character thinks is that he's like shaping, future men and future soldiers. So no love lost between these two. They did not like each other from the get-go. All right. So thank you guys for watching. This has been a bit of an experiment. Like I said, we are huge mystery fans. If you liked this episode, please let us know because we'd love to talk more about Columbo, Murder, She Wrote, or Rockford Files, you name it.
Absolutely. Agatha Christie. I mean, why not?
Yeah,
Let's get into it.
Some Sherlock Holmes. Let's go back, old school on this.
Even our new guys with the Knives Out, who I think he did a great job. Like I said, I could dork about this anytime you want to. Don't care if we have any fans about this. That's how much I love this. Yeah.
So for the mystery nerds, a subset of the nerds of comedy, I'm Sean.
I'm Brad.
Just one more thing.
Just one more thing.
Boom.
Perfect.